We got to get into this Tucker Carlson story. So Tucker Carlson actually interviewed a Christian leader here, Palestinian Christian leader. And I got to tell you, for the first time, it is not the left that is coming after Tucker Carlson. It's actually people on the right. And that goes back to the poll question. If you have a chance, don't forget to answer that. That poll should be there, right, Eric? Yeah, that poll question should be there. Whether or not you think that this issue with Israel, is it dividing the right? So that's something we need to think about. So Tucker Carlson did this interview and he received numerous attacks from people on the right. And now he is being labeled as anti-Semitic, just like Candace Owen. Oh my God, I can't make this up. Let me go ahead and get into this. This was episode 91. How does the government of Israel treat Christians? So Tucker Carlson decided to take a different approach with this, not necessarily focusing on the babies, the children being killed, but religion. Let's dive in.
But again, how are the Christians doing in that region, in Gaza, the West Bank, and in Israel proper? We almost never hear from them. And so we thought it would be interesting and maybe edifying to hear from one right now. The Reverend Munther Ishak is the pastor at the Evangelical Lutheran Christian Church in Bethlehem, and we're honored to have him join us. Father Ishak, thank you very much for coming on. So let me just ask you a broad question to start. How are Christians in the Holy Land, in the three places I mentioned, West Bank, Israel proper, and Gaza, how are they doing right now?
Yeah, first, thank you for having me. These are very, very difficult times, and it's been difficult for quite some time now. When I say difficult times, I'm not just only referring to October 7th, and the fact that right now we are fragmented into, as you explained, three territories, the West Bank, Gaza, and Israel proper. We can add East Jerusalem, which is a category in its own, explain one element of our situation, which is we're fragmented. So in my church, I have family members with relatives in Gaza, and they cannot even visit. Before the war, they could not visit and be with them. This fragmentation is, as I said, one element of the situation. One of the biggest problems we're facing right now is the deterioration in our number.
Pause right there. Okay. We're going to come back to this because I want to show you those numbers. I want you to see those for yourself. One of the problems that they have is the deterioration of the numbers. So let me show you the numbers. Check this out. Shout out to Daniel for sharing this here. Israel by the numbers in reference to religion, Christians as percentage of the population. This is the Exodus here. If you look at Israel, which is more like I don't want to call it turquoise, but I don't know what we want to call this color, but a milder green. Israel, and if you want to look at the number Christians from 1900, and then I believe this is going all the way over to 2025, right? So, am I looking at that right? Yeah, 1900 or 1900. Okay. So as you can see, if you look at when it comes to the number of Christians in Israel, notice you see the Christian population has dramatically decreased. In fact, Syria, Egypt, Palestine, Israel, Iraq, UAE, all have decreased in reference to the Christian population. Excuse me, I said this backwards. Syria, Egypt, Palestine, Israel, and Iraq have decreased in reference to the Christian population. The UAE has increased its Christian population, and Saudi Arabia has increased its Christian population. But that's what he means when he says, if you look at this by the numbers. So shout out to Daniel, who shared that the population is growing in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. That also makes sense. Like I said, the United States has good relations with the UAE and Saudi Arabia, so I could see that happening. But to his point, you can see that decrease there. I also thought it was interesting that he said even prior to October 7th, his family members could not visit him. So keep that in mind. Let's get back in.
People keep leaving because of the political reality. Life under a very harsh Israeli military occupation is difficult to bear. And as a result, many young Palestinian Christians continue to leave, for example, Bethlehem, choosing to find a better and easier life elsewhere. We are a small community, but we're part of the Palestinian people. And as such, anything that happens to Palestinian happens to us. We are probably disproportionately affected by all of this because of our small numbers as a religious community.
So think about what he's telling you. So the reason why their population is decreasing, the Christian population, is because of the military occupation of the IDF, the harsh realities living under that, right? So it's not just in reference to Palestinians that are Muslim. They still target Christians as well. In fact, there have been videos that I've seen on social media of other Christians that went to visit and were also targeted, so. But here we are.
Anything that happens impacts us severely. Case in point, what's happening in Gaza right now, where there are anything between 800 to 900 Palestinian Christians, and any impact on that community, any death in that community will have a long-lasting effect.
So what sort of support have you had from the Christians in the U.S. Congress? And just to frame this, and of course, people know this already, but the United States government is paying for a lot of these military operations, and this is a majority Christian country. So have any members of Congress sent you aid of any kind, words of support, a fellow Christian?
We've always had a problem with American foreign policy when it comes to Palestine, Israel, and the Middle East in general. I've traveled to DC in December to advocate for a ceasefire. I don't think war solves anything. And no, I mean, on the opposite, we continue to be horrified by what we hear from Congress, with, of course, some exceptions. There are some in the Democratic side. Of course, Rashida Tlaib comes from a Palestinian heritage. But when you look at the so-called religious right, we receive no sympathy whatsoever. Sometimes we just plead to be heard and to have our perspective taken seriously.
So this is another thing that I have brought up before, right? So what Tucker Carlson did was actually really smart, because while most of us have focused on the ethnic cleansing, Tucker Carlson is kind of like, well, how can I get that message across to the base that I have? So what Tucker Carlson is doing, in order to appeal to his base, he is focusing on the religious issue. So he's focusing on Christianity, which, particularly a lot of Christians, may watch Tucker Carlson or are more likely to be on the right. Now, or at least his base is more likely to be on the right. Now, why is that important? Because, if you say that you're a Christian and if you believe in the Bible and you believe in being able to practice your faith of Christianity, and now you see that the state of Israel is not treating Christians well, now this moves beyond just the Palestinian people. Now this moves into, okay, this is how they feel about Christians too. So now you got a lot of people who are Christian Zionists that are like, wait a minute here, right? So Zionism is losing its hold. It is starting to wrinkle. It's not completely falling apart yet. So let's not get there, but it is losing its hold. Because now it's not just people on the left. First, they said people on the left were in the streets protesting against the state of Israel. So it was easier for, let's just get the right to attack the left. But then people saw the images of the children. And there are moms on the left and the right and in the center. And so the children dying didn't sit too well with a lot of the moms. So there's that. Then now you have the religious issue. So now that there is this interview that took place, Now you have people on the right who are Christian, and now they're like, wait a minute now, they're treating Christians this way too. So now you have this divide. And think about this, folks. This all started because the Daily Wire fired Candace Owens. Would we be here if it wasn't for the Daily Wire firing Candace Owens, accusing her of being anti-Semitic, telling her, no, you can't have free speech when they were supposed to be a free speech platform? That is how we got here. So it was because of Candace Owens getting fired. Let's continue.
And one of the things I'm often struck with, whether when I speak to diplomats, politicians, Congress staff, or even pastors and influential pastors, is how little they know about the reality on the ground. And their knowledge of the situation here seems to be very, very shallow. Yet they hold very strong opinions. And oftentimes these opinions are shaped by political parties' position, the United States position, and not really based on, a learned opinion that's based on facts, on being here, visiting, talking, investigating, and knowing the facts. And to me, the problem with all of that is it comes across with very strong opinions and decisions that impact our lives. Many times I wish to tell not just the congressmen, but the pastors themselves who support them, do you know that your lobbying, your positions, even your sermons, have direct consequences on our lives? Tucker, in this war, there was pastors who openly called, for example, to turn Gaza into a parking lot. Now, let's remember, there are not just, the many innocent people, the majority of, Gaza people, civilians, innocent children, but also there are our siblings in Christ. We have relatives and friends in Gaza, and here you have a pastor with influence calling for the total destruction of Gaza. And you definitely, you heard in the beginning the segment from Congressman Wahlberg, who is previously a pastor, went to prestigious evangelical institutes, and it makes us wonder, this obsession with love and with war, this obsession with war and violence, it's the antithesis of everything that Jesus taught. And at the same time, it again makes us wonder, do you realize how damaging that is for us Christians living not just in Palestine, but in the Middle East? Damaging in the sense of real impact on our lives, but also damaging in terms of our credibility in front of our peers here in the Middle East. So we've always had a very serious problem when it comes to American foreign policy and the religious right support to that foreign policy when it comes to Palestine and Israel.
So there it is. What did he tell you? American foreign policy has always been an issue, even for Christians in Israel. Now we're going to fast forward to another part here, because there's another piece that I want to get to where they dive a little bit deeper here. Let me go ahead and share this. And I got to tell you, this says something, because now it's like, wait a minute, bam. Okay, because now you have right-wing Christians that are like, wait a minute. Now we're finding out they're coming after us too. Because remember, a lot of people weren't aware of what was happening in Israel. They weren't aware of what was happening to the Palestinian people. They damn sure weren't aware of what was happening to Christians. I told you about how they sterilized Ethiopian Jewish women against their own will. And like The Guardian wrote about that. There was entire articles about it. Most people never heard about it. Never heard about it. So let's dive into this part here.
And so around 4 or 5 of our Palestinian Christian community inside the church died because of sickness, most likely because there is no medical attention or medicine whatsoever. You can go to a hospital. It's literally hell on earth for them right now, even for those hiding inside the two churches.
I'm confused. Why wouldn't Christians in Gaza, cowering in their church and dying of curable illnesses, be allowed to travel into Israel Why wouldn't they be allowed to leave? Why would they be held there? I mean, they're Christians. They're not a threat to anyone.
Because it is a supremacist state. They want one religion. They want one ethnicity. That's why. So you see, this interview that Tucker Carlson did with this pastor, this was a wake-up call for, I think, a lot of Christians on the right were like, wait a minute. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Because now they see it's not just Israel trying to defend itself from Hamas. Are they trying to defend themselves from these Christians? Are they trying to defend themselves from this pastor? So Tucker Carlson stepped on some toes with this one.
No, but this is the nature of the siege. The siege has been there since 2007. It's collective punishment against all Palestinians. I think this is one of the misconceptions that Israel as if favors Christians against Muslims. No, Israel looks at us as Palestinians. I want to draw attention to, even 2 years ago in the West Bank when Palestinian Christian journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, who's also an American citizen, was shot dead by Israeli forces, and no one was held accountable. So
pause there for a second. So you know what this exposes as well, ladies and gentlemen? He said, no, it doesn't matter because they don't just see us as, Christians or, That's why he said, why would they do that towards Christians? He's like, because it doesn't matter. We're still Palestinian. Oh, and then there's another thing we got to talk about. The fact that even with the switch and let's focus on Christianity being attacked in the state of Israel, that is still identity politics. So think about that, folks. This is what I continue to tell you. Identity politics exists on both sides, whether it's religion, race, class, gender, socioeconomic status. It exists on both sides of the aisle. And it's just that both sides use different identities that they want to focus on. So when people tell you don't talk about identity politics, all politics is identity politics. This conversation is the identity politics is focused on religion. It's focused on Christianity. But he had to bring it back there and let Tucker know it doesn't matter what the religion is. We're still Palestinian. They want us gone. So now he gets into the conversation about the West Bank.
Palestinian Christians suffer from everything under this brutal occupation, whether in Gaza, which is more difficult than here in the West Bank. But even here in the West Bank, we go through everything from land confiscation to the restrictions. And so that Christian community in Gaza right now is stuck inside. They can't leave. No one can leave Gaza right now unless, you have some sort of arrangement with the Egyptian government in Rafah. But as I said, the majority of Christians have decided to stay in the city of Gaza. So this goes back to the fragmentation I mentioned. Remember, I said we have relatives of our church members in Gaza. Well, they haven't seen each other for a while now because you need a permit from the Israeli military, even as a Christian, to travel from one place to the other. Tucker, we're talking to you from Bethlehem, and Jerusalem is literally 15 minutes away from here. I can walk to Jerusalem in 30 minutes. I can be at the old city of Jerusalem in probably 40 minutes walk. I can't get there, even as a clergy. I don't have a permit, and I need a permit that we get from the Israeli military as Palestinians to go from one place to the other. So for me as a clergy from Bethlehem, I cannot even go to Jerusalem. This is our reality today.
And that's what I've been trying to explain to people. And Kim Iverson explained this when she actually went to the West Bank as well. Imagine like those of you that live in California. Imagine if you live in Los Angeles and you want to go to San Diego. Actually, let's not go that far. Let's say you live in Hollywood. And let's say you want to go to the Valley. Imagine if you couldn't do that unless you had a special passport. Those of you who live in the Boston area, imagine if you live in Boston and you want to go to Cambridge. Just a hop, skip, and a jump away. But you couldn't do it unless you had a certain type of passport. That's how wild that is. The fact that there's a 15-minute difference there from what he was talking about. That's how crazy it is. We'll go on a little bit more here, and I'll show you the backlash that Tucker is receiving.
As a minister, so it's just hard to believe we would send any money to a government that would do something like that to Christians. So let me just ask, having been to Bethlehem, I was surprised by how hard it was to get there, and surprised, honestly, by how shabby it was. And I was surprised because I think millions of Christian pilgrims from the West go there every year because, of course, that's the birthplace of Christ, and the Church of the Nativity is there. So why isn't Bethlehem the recipient of aid from Christian groups in the West? Or more aid, enough aid?
We do receive some aid, but it's not enough. And by the way, it's nothing in comparison to the aid Israel receives.
That's right. See, once again, what he is showing you, even when it comes to Bethlehem, they are prioritizing giving more aid and funding to the state of Israel. This is just another example. Again, he's Christian. He's not Muslim. He's not Hamas. He's not, you see what I mean? So this is where the Israeli argument fails. This is where it fails. The funny part about this conversation is then Tucker said he went to Bethlehem and it was shabby. And I was thinking to myself, like, he was probably like, what in the, oh, so I'm rolling up in the hood. That's what he probably thought. He was like, I did not know this place looked like this.
That's the interesting part in all of this. And I would love to reach a point in which we don't actually need any aid. If Bethlehem was open to the world, we can flourish as a community, not just from tourism and obviously the pilgrimage. The Palestinian people are very creative, very talented. We can do much if we have the opportunity to flourish as a community. But you does something important because we as Palestinian Christians, I think, rely too much on tourism and on welcoming pilgrimage. And before COVID, we had record numbers of pilgrims staying in Bethlehem. The economy was, especially in Bethlehem, was really going up. But then COVID hit us, and now this war hit us, and I'm not sure it's going to be very easy for us to survive. And when it comes to support, not just I wish to reach the point where we don't need support because Bethlehem is open to the world. I want to emphasize that the biggest support right now that we're asking for is not financial, but on political advocacy for peace and for a solution, whether it be a two-state solution or any other solution. We will not survive as a Christian community if the situation of Palestinians in general is not solved.
And I want to leave it on that note there, because that sends a message to Christians that are a part of Tucker Carlson's audience. And I'm pretty sure they heard that loud and clear. There's a number of comments on Twitter under this video. The people are pissed. Some of them are pissed at Tucker Carlson for doing this interview, but I felt like there were more of them that were pissed that this is happening to people who are Christian. So it really does put the ball, in the court of different people now. So now you can't just say it's the left that is angry with the state of Israel. Now you have right-wing Christians that are angry with the state of Israel. This is called bipartisanship in the streets. Now you can have bipartisanship in the streets among the people, not the people in the stuffy suits that sit in DC and make legislation. You have Rabbi Shmuley, who came out against Tucker Carlson, of course. I've said for years that Tucker Carlson is an anti-Semite, while everyone else was cheering him on Fox News each night. I said he's an Israel hater. Now he shows his true colors. Kudos to the Murdoch family for firing him and relegating him to the fringes of the media. See this, guys? It's already begun. From Candace Owens to Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson says you've lost the thread to U.S. Christian leaders who support Israel. Here it comes, folks. I told you, here it comes. They have turned on him. And it even says so here, conservatives turn on Tucker Carlson. This was from Newsweek. Oh my God. I got to tell you, we're going to get started here. It says former Fox host Tucker Carlson added his voice to criticism of Israel on the latest episode of his talk show, where he spoke with a Palestinian pastor about how the conflict has affected the region's small Christian population. Goes on to say here, after citing wars in other regions, Carlson asked, but what about Gaza? What about the entire region in the Middle East, where, of course, there's very intense fighting going on? Many Christian churches in the United States, particularly evangelical churches, support that. It goes on to say here, but there is virtually never a word about Christians who live there, the ancient Christian community in Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel proper. So because no one has said a word, there has been great suffering among the Christian population in that region. So Tucker Carlson is late with this news, because when it says no one has said a word, you know, there have been people on the left who actually have been talking about this for quite some time. Max Blumenthal's talked about this. Anya Parampil's talked about this. Kim Iverson talked about this after she went to visit the West Bank a couple of years ago. So there have been people that have, I think Kim Iverson's independent now, but there have been people that did cover this. It was just covered by people on the left at that point in time, right? So, but there are more attacks coming Tucker Carlson's way, and they show some of those here. Caroline Glick, this is mendacious hit piece that shows Tucker's generally well-hidden hand. The Christian population of Bethlehem all but disappeared after the PLA took over in 1996 due to Islamic persecution. The only Christian population in the Middle East that is growing is the Christian, see if she still got this here, is the Christian community in Israel. The Christian community in Gaza disappeared after Hamas took over in 2005. In 2002, PLO terrorists took nuns and priests and hostages in a standoff with the IDF forces in the Church of the Nativity of Bethlehem. So they coming after him, right? And you know, they send the alarm. The network of Zionists sound the alarm, and they all attack you one after another. Josh Hammer. Turns out Tucker needed Fox more than Fox needed Tucker. Very sad. Oh my God. Now, Jake Shields came in with good commentary here in reference to the interview. Tucker Carlson is actually America first. Unfortunately, all of our Republicans are Israel first, and Democrats are Ukraine and every third world nation first. And it has the statement here where Tucker Carlson says, America does not exist to protect and stand up for the citizens of other nations. So now you have Zionists coming after Candace Owens. You got Zionists coming after Tucker Carlson. You guys keep saying that you want some type of unity in reference to fighting back against Israel. Well, here's your unity. Here's your unity ticket, because now they have pissed off right-wing Christians and Tucker Carlson. I don't know if Tucker considers himself Christian, but Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. Remember, all of this started because the Daily Wire decided to fire Candace Owens, and this has spiraled into a big snowball. So now Zionists have people on the left and people on the right who are angry with them. But do you think that Israel has now divided the right? Let's check out the poll. This was pinned to the top of the chat. 1,166 votes. Do you feel Israel is now dividing the right? 58% of you say yes, 16% say no, and 25% say that you are not sure. Interesting numbers there, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to some of the comments here in the chat. Be Easy says religion, i.e. identity politics. Yep. I told you guys, identity politics isn't just race and gender. Child of God says Tucker destroyed a whole narrative in one interview. That's like 20 years of work down the drain for them in an hour. They definitely mad. Thank you for the super chat, P. Smith. Gray Zone video, unholy occupation. I have to check that out. Thank you. Jonathan says, Sabby, you should interview Candace Owen. You are probably like the 10th person to tell me this within the past 2 weeks. I'm open to having conversation with anybody. I think that would be a really interesting conversation. That would be a trip. That'd be one for the history books. But I am not certain that she would want to have a conversation on a smaller channel. Hani says, Sabby, thank you for reporting the truth. And Gina says, Sabby Sabs, yes, he's a former Episcopalian who says he's not that denomination anymore, but still Christian. Interesting. I've never met an Episcopalian. Let's take the comments on Rockfin, Eric. Thank you so much for the tip on Rockfin hemp card. Catholic priests get spit on in Jerusalem on a regular basis. Yeah, I've seen that article. It says there's a video of a show that's nailing Jesus to the cross and they're mocking him. We've killed white Christians in the Balkans and Christians in East Timor and the Americas. Cuba is 60% Catholic, Venezuela too. And thank you for the tip, Skip. All Christian folk ain't kin folk, just like all Jewish folks ain't kin folks, and all skin folk ain't kin folks either. This is true. Thank you for this one, Hemp. Don't forget, we shot St. Father Romero through the heart with an exploding round as he was consecrating the host in El Salvador. The actor who played the dad in the Addams Family played him in a movie about it. We tortured Sister Diana Ortiz too. The book Disturbing the Peace about Father Roy Bourgeois is a must read. He tried to close the School of Americas. Susan Sarandon did a movie on it. I'll have to check that out. I'm not familiar with that. I'll have to look into it.